Hello and thank you for stopping by the Soul Sync. I'm Jason Paul. It's a Sunday evening. It's nice warm weather today. I've had a weekend of literally treating myself with love, compassion and kindness. Over the last couple of weeks, my energy has just been all over the place. I've been very low vibe, so I said to myself this weekend, I'm just going to have a weekend of looking after myself, treating myself with loads of love, abundance, having lots of sleep, rest. And I do actually feel a hell of a lot better and much more back to myself today. I've literally just come off of a Zoom call as well where there's a medium, a trance medium who's on the show next week, who's called Sarah, and she has a spirit who comes through who she's been working with for a very long time doing trance with, called Master Chow. And I've just had an hour-long conversation with Master Chow, and I've been put quite in my place by him at times during the conversation. I think you're going to find the trance dem that she did for me to be very probably quite funny, but also very insightful and interesting. So I've just done that, and I thought to myself, I want to get an episode published today for a story that I recorded a few weeks ago, and it really is an absolutely mind-blowing story, this one. So let me introduce to you Isabella Young's journey now. She's gone from cult survivor to literally tragedy to spiritual freedom. So her career began as an educator and a researcher in Australia, where she pioneered therapeutic outdoor education and wilderness programs. However, her life did take a tragic turn when she became widowed and pregnant, setting her on a transformative path spanning over 3 decades. So her journey and the story you're going to hear today is about how she joined a MESSIANIC cult where she endured unimaginable hardships, even including the loss of her son. So this one is quite a story. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Isabella Young's story. So, Isabella, firstly, a massive warm welcome onto the Soul Sync podcast.
Thank you, Jason. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today and share my experiences and lessons with you and your audience.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted that you're on, so thank you. I was reading through your notes earlier, and I must admit, it did blow my mind, your story. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about in this episode today, in this time together. So let's go straight into it. Take us back in time. Tell us a bit about your story, because, like I said, it did blow me away when I was reading it.
Well, I was raised by a devout atheist. My mother hated God, and she believed that anyone who believed in God or was religious in any way was a lesser human, like a subhuman and a pathetic human. And so I grew up with this superior attitude that I knew better than everybody else. And, I was in on the secret that there really wasn't a God and everyone else was just being pathetic and needing a crutch, because she called religion a crutch for humanity. And that meant that I couldn't even say the word God. Like, I'd spit it out with all the venom that I had, and had this superior attitude, like I said. And then when I was in my last year of college, I met a man who went on to become my husband. And when we met, it changed everything. He gave me books to read that really opened my mind to the fact that there's more to this world than can be perceived by our 5 senses. And we did meditation together. We went along to meditation class together, and then we got into doing Tantra together and had some really wild experiences. And that really set me on the path of my spiritual awakening. I suppose that's where it really all started. And we lived together and traveled together and did pilgrimages together, and it was just an extraordinary time. He was a really amazing human being. He was much older than me. I had daddy issues, and so I was with this older man. But it turned out he was the longest serving soldier in the Australian Army in the Vietnam War. He'd done 4 tours. Like, he was a real hero, and he wasn't just like a warrior in the physical sense, but he was also a spiritual warrior too. And so he was a mentor, he was a friend, he was a lover, and he was a soulmate. and we built a life together. My dream has always been to live on some land and be self-sufficient. So he helped me realize that dream, and we were living on a farm, and we had
Mhm.
our son, and it was a really sweet life. And then one day he went to work and got a call from, or the cops actually came around about 10 in the morning and told me that he'd been found dead at work. And I was that was the end of my dreams, my life, my family, just gone. And I lost my mind. I really did. I had to sell the farm. I was pregnant too, so I just no way I could cope with the upkeep of the farm and raising two kids on my own. And I just went on I suppose I went on a walkabout basically, and stayed in many different places over a number of years. I just couldn't find where home was. And truth is,
Mm.
I really didn't even want to be alive. And the only reason I stayed alive was because I had one child, and I was carrying another child. And I gave birth to my daughter in a beautiful, probably what uh, some people would say was my first cult experience, but it was a community outside of Melbourne, and she was born in a mud brick building out in the bush. It was a beautiful experience, but it was extremely lonely, and just in that pain of not being able to share the joy of a birth with someone else, it was extremely difficult time. And uh, I did my best because I knew I had to stay alive really, because I had these two other beings that were with me.
Mm.
And I did this a course that was part of the community that I was in, that had a lot. They were very eclectic in their spiritual teachings. They brought in from Osho and shamanic medicines and all that, and they put together this course called Dying to Live, which was basically a preparation for death. And I thought, well, I mean, because that's how I feel. I really need to address my death wish, head on. So in this course, we did. It was out in this same mud brick temple where we were blindfolded and we were in silence for a week. And every time we came together in the temple, we did activities like write letters to people who we had issues with, or write letters to people who we needed to say what needed to be said. And we planned our will, wrote our eulogy, and just really focused on the last day, which was going to be the meditation, or our death. And I put my heart and soul into this course. I prepared for a long time beforehand. And then while I was there, I was really, really serious about it. So I thought, this is a real opportunity for me here to break free from, what was really weighing heavily on me. And on the Friday morning, we were guided through this meditation. And I remember the words Merkaba and Antakarana. And I had this massive experience. I don't know where I went, but seemed like a long way out, whatever that means. And I encountered a Sai Baba who had been a teacher of mine, and Barry, my partner, who died. And they told me that it was a few things, but one of the things they told me, it was time for me to start training with this trance channel, whose name I'd only heard a couple of times, and I'm only going to mention it once now because he's been the bane of my life for a long time now. His name was Louis Domprey. So I came out of the meditation, and I was okay, we're going to be really honest here about how I was affected. I was undressed for 4 days. I was like squirting, orgasming for 4 days, and it took me a long time to like bring myself back into my body again. And after that time, I went back home, and I called up. Well, basically he's the cult leader. Spoiler alert. And I told him that what had happened in the meditation, and he said to meet him in New Zealand because he was running this Millennium event. So I went to New Zealand and helped him put on this production. There was quite a few of us there. It was remember the Millennium, that it was supposed to be, big stuff was going to happen. So there was this performance that he put together with different artists from all over the world. And then after that, he said to me, why don't you come and train with me in California because he had a home or an ashram in Laguna Hills in California. So my mum said, why doesn't she mind my children and I go for a month just to check it out? So I did that. And that was such a strange experience for me because there was a lot of like I knew that I was supposed to be there and I felt good about being there to serve, but there was this really strange energy between him and I. And I wasn't attracted to him at all, like physically, but there was this energetic pull that kept on bringing us together in really strange ways, where he would say all these things like, oh, we're meant to be together and all this stuff like that.
So
And at the end of
I'm just gonna because I just want to catch up. There's so much that's happened already in this short amount of time or that we've been talking. So I just want to so you obviously we're in this very low place. You went to this what sounds like a kind of healing group slash experience, but was focused on the subject of death because that's what obviously the way you were feeling at that time. You then through that experience had this kind of outer body experience where then you were given the name of an individual, where then you tracked the individual down and went to America to go and see this individual who you would describe as a kind of guru. Okay,
correct.
I'm right. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm
No,
keeping up with the story here. So
that's a good
you
point.
yeah. You decide to just talk me through that. So you come across this guru, but he lives in a completely different country. What made you feel that you had to go to this individual and take time away from your children to do so? Just talk me through how that came about.
Well, my driving force for a, a long time has been my spiritual path, and I understood the guru disciple relationship, and I really wanted a
Right.
guru. I
Okay.
really felt like I needed a guru. I was in search for a guru, and when
What
I
did a
entered
guru
into
mean
this,
to you at that time? What was why was you seeking that of a guru? What did you feel that you would get from that
someone
individual?
who could guide me along
Right.
my spiritual path and help me evolve, someone
And
who had
take you from sorry, take you from that experience that you had and move you forward because you were seeking clarity in what happened to you in that experience.
yeah.
Okay,
Basically,
right.
I was hooked on this idea of enlightenment. I had
Okay.
this idea about it. I'd heard about the word, and I really wanted that. I wanted
Okay.
to be free. I wanted to evolve spiritually.
And
And I felt
how
like
old
I
was you
needed
at that
someone.
point? Sorry, I keep talking over you. I
No,
will
that's all
stop
right.
talking over you. How old was
No,
you at
that's
this?
okay. I was about 30, 30
Okay.
years old.
Okay,
Yeah.
carry on. I just wanted to make sure I was keeping up with this story and understanding it, but carry on.
No, you made an important point because I thought that I was, he told me he was my guru, that he knew me better than anybody else, and all I needed to do was follow him and be obedient, and I would be free. I would uh, have what I wanted, and he was the only one who could help me. So, and he had an ashram, he's calling it ashram. He had disciples, and he was on a mission. In fact, he claimed himself to be the second coming, the
Right.
Kalki avatar, the Maitreya Buddha, the one who's come to save humanity. And in my naivete, I'm really, I'm wanting to be part of something bigger. I'm wanting to help people. I'm wanting to make a difference in the world. And so that felt to me like it was the right thing to do. And
Mm.
having been heard that in that out of body experience, I knew I had to follow the instructions, because what I was also hearing, I would just hear it all the time: heal and serve, heal and serve, heal and serve. So in my mind,
Mm.
by taking this move to be with this guru, I was fulfilling both those instructions that I was hearing. So
Carry on. I was going to say, I guess it was the fact that you had this name, which was a solidifying force in making you feel that you know this, was the right path for you at that time.
I've done my best to follow the instructions that I either feel intuitively or like hear in my head. Yeah, I do hear voices, not a whole lot of them. And now there's just one. And because I've learnt to trust that voice by following the instructions. And that's what I was doing when I left my children and went to America. I was following my instructions.
So you got to the place. There were disciples there. Obviously, tell us about your early experiences of being part of this cult.
So this cult was based in Laguna Hills. It's still there, still running. It's in Laguna Hills in California. There are other cult groups like in Australia, in Melbourne, and I'm not sure where because I haven't been involved for a long time, but this headquarters is still in Laguna Hills. And the cult leader lives in one house and people come there to serve, and the other cult members live in group homes around close by, so they can, walk there and then come to serve, which is basically just free slave labor. And they cook and clean and walk the dog and do the gardening and whatever, in their minds, they're making their offerings to Guruji, but really they're just there for fulfilling his needs and making his life extremely comfortable while they're, and some of those people have been doing that for decades now. So there we were. I just have to say, just this is a big part of it too. That first month that I spent there, we had a trip to Sedona. There was a grand stellium, apparently a big astrological event. So we went to Sedona, and on the last day, we went up to the top of this rock tower there to meditate when the sun was setting. And he called me up to the group, to the stand up in front of the group and turned me to face the setting sun. And then he said, cast your deepest wish into the setting sun. And then over my shoulder, he passed me a card, which when I opened it up, it said, there's something I want to share with you. And I read it and it said, it's called The Rest of My Life. And when I turned around, everyone's blowing bubbles and there were rose petals on the ground and he's down on one knee and he asked me to marry him. So I felt like that was the next step for me. So I agreed and we got married. I went back to Australia and I got my children and told my family, and they were horrified. And I was committed, and I was also, I was really pretty mentally imbalanced too, really the honest truth of it all. Mm-hmm. So then we started living in the ashram as a family. We were supposed to be the divine family, modeling the divine blueprint. And he was, the divine father, and I'm the divine mother. And we had children. And we consummated the marriage one time. Hang on, I need a drink. We consummated the marriage once, and I got pregnant. And he told me I was going to be giving birth to Lord Ganesha, the remover of obstacles, and she would be coming forth to help me with my blockages, because I was a pretty disobedient disciple, actually, because the hypocrisy and the just his ways of operating were unbearable most of the time, really. It was obnoxious. And so there we were, living as a family with other cult members or disciples coming to help. And we were all supposed to be supporting his ministry to come out into the world so we could save the planet. But it was hell. It was hell because he was all about refinements and consequences. So whenever we spoke out of line, there would be consequences for that, punishments like writing lines, or for some people, it was picking up trash or picking up dog shit, or sleeping in the car or sleeping in the garage, or even like being ousted from the cult. And what he did was he really honed in on my children from the previous marriage, and he used them against me. And he punished them a lot more than everybody else, and that enraged me. It just incensed me. He, especially my son, because my son could see straight through him, and he was um, very vocal about what he saw. And the cult leader would, what he did was he would use the children, like I said, against me, but he was also tell them that I loved them differently from each other. Like I loved one more than the other. And that caused a lot of even more problems for me and my children. And what he would say was that, I was just resistant, and as soon as I surrendered and obeyed, everything would change. And I kept thinking, well, yeah, I know I've got issues, so clearly if I'm not going to work on them here, I'll have to work on them somewhere else. So I stayed, and also I was married by that time and had been through my own divorced parents' experience and was family. So I didn't want to just take my children away from their father. And also, and in addition to the gaslighting that he did, that we'd had conversations that we never had, or he'd said something he didn't say, or the things that happened that they never happened. It was sending me crazy with the mind fuckery. And then he would just keep me there with threats, like if I left, then I'd be basically walking away from God. And so I stayed, and got to the point where I wanted to die again. I used to claw at my wrists, just wanting it all to end. I didn't really know a way out. And no one ever said to me, hey, you're in a cult, even though my parents, apparently, who had been divorced for years and never did anything together, I found out later, went along to see a year after I left Australia. And they never said anything. No family, no friends ever said anything about being in a cult. I remember one person said something like, well, you don't need a guru, do you? And I said, well, I think I do at this point. I was still convincing myself that I was doing the right thing.
Are they aware of sort of some of the things that were going on?
Yes, they were. My son went back to Australia because my children would spend time in Australia with their grandparents. And my son told my mother's husband that he was made to get into the hot tub naked with the other men in the cult. And that made him feel really uncomfortable. And my mother's husband, who's a lawyer and, has the wherewithal to do something, just said, oh, let us know if it happens again. So they knew what was going on. Probably more, they knew more than me. Like I said, they knew I was in a cult. I didn't. I still kept thinking I'm in an ashram with my guru.
Well, I
And
guess
then,
that when you're in that situation as well, it's, you're with even the other people in the community, that it's brainwashing as such,
yeah,
isn't it?
we were all brainwashed, and everybody's, and just bonded by trauma-based mind control, because he would do that, all the typical cult tactics, the love bombing. He'd tell me, oh, you're a goddess, you're divine mother, and then the next thing, I'm the worst human being in the world, I'm a shit mom, I'm just a bad person, a bad wife. And that when he would do that sort of thing to the whole love bombing thing to everybody.
It's
Yep.
narcissistic behavior, isn't it?
Completely. I've since I left, I've studied narcissistic personality disorder, and if he doesn't have, that's what he is. He's has a narcissistic personality disorder, because I mean, who else is going to say that they're the second coming and really believe it, and really
Well,
want other people to believe that? I mean, a
I'm a
lot of
bit, I'm a
people do.
bit lost for words. It doesn't happen much, Bella, on this show. So how how long was you in this cult for?
Well, I was I was in it for 7 years, and this is the point that got me out of it. One day, my son came home from school, and he was really upset, and he didn't want to talk about whatever he was upset about. So I said, why don't you go to bed and we'll talk about it in the morning? Anyway, in the morning, he was missing and couldn't find him, and got extremely worried because he was supposed to be going away, and reported him missing to the police. And that afternoon, and then the next day, the cult leader sent out his assistant to go and look for him, and he was found above the house, and he was dead, and it looked like he'd taken his own life with a knife. One of our blunt kitchen knives that can't even cut through a tomato, he apparently cut his throat. And that, I completely lost my mind, because then the cult leader blamed me. He said that because I wasn't an obedient disciple, an obedient wife, and I hadn't fulfilled what my son had wanted to do with his life, with his soul, I got in the way of that. And that was just, and I didn't really believe that, but I believed the suicide, and the like the manner of death, because that's what was told to me, and that's what then the coroner said. And it's only been years later that I've actually had the courage to read the report, speak to some of the people who weren't interviewed by police, and now realize that was a staged suicide. And it was all used to get my son out of the way, because he was in the way. He would constantly challenge, and also we found out that what this cult leader does is he grooms boys. And we found out that from some of the young men who were in the Australian cult. And then I thought, oh, that's what was happening with my son, that he was being groomed. And I still didn't leave at that time, though. I still didn't leave. Because he threatened he wouldn't let me take my youngest daughter. And he told me that if I did leave, then my other children would end up dead. And that I would end up, when I died, my scream would like resonate throughout the universe when I realized the error of my ways, because I was turning my back on God. So just serious mind fuckery when I'd already lost my son and was seriously traumatized, and he just kept adding to that. And then what I've realized later is I think that he let me go because he knew he'd have another death on his hands if he didn't let me go. Because I really didn't want to go on at this point. I didn't give a shit how many kids I had or whatever. I just needed to get out. So he, I just need to put in one point, was when I realized I was in a cult. I went along to see this, I needed help and support. I was so lost, and I went along to see this psychologist who had been the cult psychologist for many years, because in addition to just having this guru, we also had to go and see a kinesiologist and a psychologist, for us to help, because we're all so fucked up, of course. We need all these help to deal with our issues. So I went along to see this cult psychologist who I hadn't seen while he was actually there. I was so disobedient. I thought, I'm not doing that. But when I walked in the door, he said, you're in a cult, don't you? And I said, no, I thought I was in a ashram with my guru. And he said, go home and Google cult characteristics. So I did that, and I went through the checklist. It's got, the checklist is charismatic leader who believes he's the arbiter of truth, and he uses love bombing and hate bombing and gaslighting and mind control and control of what you eat, how much sleep you have. Everything in this checklist was what I was experiencing. And it was that moment when I realized, oh, I'm in a cult and I've got to get out. And then, like I said, he let me go, and away I went with my daughter to Hawaii, where I really had to start. That's when I started my healing and recovery, which is when my family, ditched me completely and really left me to figure it out on my own. But like I said, my goal was to be free, and I suppose at that point they let me be free. So it's been a long journey. It's been 15 years of like hard work to recover from that trauma, and I'm still recovering. I'm a work in progress, but I don't suffer the way I used to. I used to suffer all the time, and I felt like such a victim, uh, and it's only been in just a few of the recent years where I feel good most of the time. It's not like I don't feel sad. I
Yeah.
still cry, I miss people and all that, but I don't suffer, and I can understand more about what happened and why it happened, and more importantly, what I learned from that experience.
Oh, what a story. What a story. Um, honestly, I don't know what to say. I'm a bit lost for words, Bella. Doesn't happen often. Um, honestly, I had the hairs on the back of my neck standing up there. What an awful to think it's still around as well.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
very
still.
familiar with cult culture because I've seen I've naturally just come across it on a lot of different TV programs, documentaries, and I was with a narcissist when I was in my very early 20s. So I can once you've been with a narcissist, you can always straight away the characteristics of a narcissist. What you said that obviously, you're going to be healing for forever with these things, like we all are when we have these traumas. What you mentioned that obviously you've learned. What do you feel that you've? Are there any positives that you? I don't want to say positives because that's not the right word. What have you learned from this? What learnings have you taken from all of these years and so on?
The most important and probably the most difficult thing that I learned, and I know it's really uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear this, but I learned that I am not a victim, that I wanted, chose, and created everything that happened to me. At some point in my soul journey, this was all set up for me to go through in this lifetime so that I could, I don't know, get wherever I'm supposed to go, which I don't really know what is, but I feel like I I was meant to go through this. It's a rite of passage. It's an initiation that I went through, and I just know from how I'm. All I really care about is being in service to God, and I don't want to use God in a religious sense at all, because I believe all religions are cults, all of them. That's what happened. That's another thing that I learned through what I've learned is now I can see cults everywhere. I can see cults in
Mm,
families. I can see cults in sports teams, political parties, MLM marketing things. And I can see cults in religions, and I can see the greater cult. This is the probably the one of the biggest things I learned was I can see a much bigger picture of humanity and how humanity is enslaved in a cult. I can see the same tactics that were used on me and now used on humankind. The brainwashing through televisions and black screens. I can see the mind control. I can see the psyops and the gaslighting and how we're all being controlled and steered in a certain direction that isn't for our highest and best. So, and then what's been really important for my own healing is I learn about all the natural medicines that I already have within my body and within my divine nature and within nature that I can use to help me feel better naturally. And that's been the name of my uh, YouTube channel. And that's really what I feel that I'm called to teach, is about the natural medicines that most people are clueless about. And basically what I'm now writing about is remembrance of how to be a human, because we have all these uh,
mm,
gifts and tools and processes within us that we can access to heal, to become empowered, and to optimize and to really live more fully in this physical reality.
I think you're right. I think that, well, we live in a world that's obviously we've got technology, we've got corporate greed that shapes a lot of the world that we live in now. We've got a well, you only need to look at Russia, Ukraine. Well, we could go on. We could just go on and on and on about all the things in the world that aren't right. What I want to, and I think you make very valid points, and I'm not surprised that you can see cults everywhere having had the experience that you've had. You talk about obviously being a human and everything that we need is within, is within us, which I do believe. But when you talk about, the medicines that are out there and things within nature, what have you what are you referring to?
Well, here's an example. The most powerful medicine is self-love. That's what I've come to learn, because that's what I needed. I didn't have self-love. That's basically what led me or resulted in me going through all that shit, because I didn't love myself. And even after I got out of the cult, I got into relationships with narcissists again, a narcissist again. And I remember saying to myself, this, clearly, even though I've been working on self-love, I don't love myself, or I wouldn't be in a relationship with a narcissist.
You know what?
And
Funnily
then,
enough, well, it's not funnily enough. It's very sad actually, but it was a lack of self love that made me be with a narcissist.
yeah,
It was
that's it.
exactly the same.
That's what it is. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it means that, well, firstly, it means that you're codependent. That means that you look for love outside yourself,
Hmm.
and that you need to work on self-love as protection against narcissists. So instead of saying, oh, he's a narcissist, he's the thing is to say, well, that means I'm codependent. So that means that I need to love myself and really make that a reality. And that took a while too, to actually go through the different processes of, the main one I used was affirmations. I just used to say I love myself all the time to myself. And then self-care, to really care for myself, how I would care for my own child. And, just be very gentle with myself. And of course, not stay in a relationship with a narcissist any longer. And it actually took three narcissistic relationships for me to finally break free from that lack of self-love, because it was so deep. And in addition to the shame and the guilt that I felt with my son's death, I was a mess. It's a mess. So it took a long time to heal that or fix that or whatever. And the other medicines that I'm talking about are, well, just if we talk about body technologies, is how we can use our breath to change our state, or how we can use movement, how we can move our bodies to change our state, or the food we eat, or, where we actually go, like spending time in nature. That's been the biggest healing factor for me. I know that I live in Hawaii, and I know that that's healed my heart, or is healing my heart. It's being in nature. Uh, and then once I started spending time in nature, then the nature started to teach me. Like, I didn't really understand about how important it is for us to be directly connected to the earth. Like, we really do need to be skin to earth. That's the only way our bodies can balance physiologically and, like, electromagnetically. And we live in this chaotic sea of electromagnetic frequencies, and there's no way that the bodies can rebalance unless we've direct contact with the earth, because the exchange of energies. So I
Mm.
started going barefoot. I haven't worn shoes. Well, I wear them sometimes, of course, if I'm traveling, but generally I don't wear shoes. I stay connected to the earth. I stay connected to the source, to the battery, to the negative ions, to the life force energy. And that's really empowers me. And I don't even hear doctors of natural health talking about the importance of grounding. I know there's Clint Nober. He's done a lot of research into this, put out the documentary called uh, earthing,
Mhm.
which is
Mm.
a must watch because it's essential medicine to be directly connected to the earth. And most people don't do it, don't even touch the earth. And it doesn't have to be just feet on earth. You can touch trees, touch plants, touch rocks, touch grounded animals, other grounded people. But we really do need to be directly connected to earth energy.
We do, I
And then,
agree.
and daily, as much as possible. And like we were talking before we started about the importance of having plants around. We need to be receiving the energies from nature because our energy is being attacked and depleted and really, messed with. And it's nature that can help us restore and replenish and recharge so that we can live in this world as healthy, happy, whole human beings. And then the other medicine really powerful medicine I learn about is sun gazing, which has been dismissed as some new age bullshit, but it's actually one of the most powerful practices that we can do. And that's one of the other things about I just mentioned the fact that we're all enslaved in this, it's a satanic cult that uses this inversion principle so that everything's good becomes bad. And um, one of the pieces of advice that we hear from childhood is to not look at the sun, right?
Mm.
Everyone hears that. Don't look at the sun. You'll hurt your eyes. You'll go blind. Well, that's bullshit. It's only part of the equation. It's just like don't look at the sun when it's directly overhead for a long time because you will hurt your eyes. But there are times of days when we really are well advised to look at the sun because the sun is the highest frequency of energy that's available to us here on planet Earth,
Yes.
right? It's a source of life. So to be taking that energy directly into the eyes, through into the brain, the pineal gland, brings in life force energy, light codes, activations, optimizations that I don't even know about, but I know that by doing this practice pretty much every day now for about as long as I've been grounding, it's transformed my physical health and expanded my consciousness it's expanded my consciousness. It continues to do that. And so the thing is to start slow because it is an extremely powerful practice, but then to build on that so that now I do it as much as I can every day. Well, I don't go outside and just look at the sun, but take opportunities to do that. And then the other part of doing that practice, and I suppose it's when we're in any state to be receiving energy, is to be open-hearted and to be grateful for what we're receiving, and then to receive the most it's important to be in a relaxed state because if we're not relaxed, then there's tension that's blocking what we're receiving. So when I'm
Yes.
sun gazing, I'll float out in the water so that I'm completely relaxed and receiving the energy. And then, that opened me up to understanding more about these processes that we have inherent within our body, like another level of body technologies that we can access that basically can rejuvenate our bodies and create longevity. And there's a process called raising the chrism. I don't know if you've heard about it
No.
or not, but it's this astrological, alchemical process that happens in our bodies every month. But most people don't know about it and live lifestyles that would destroy this process. But what it does after its completion is I'll just tell you the process first, right?
Yes. Yeah. Go on.
So this process happens naturally in every human being. It's just a part of our divine design. And like I said, this book that I'm writing goes more into our divine design rather than just this idea that we're a meat suit.
Hmm.
So in the body, there's a process that it starts every month when the moon is in the same sign as the sun was in when we were born. Astrology is another one of the tools that we really should all be studying because that's extremely empowering. I mean, if you want to know, if you're into self-knowledge and understanding what's going on in the world, astrology is the key. So every month when the moon is in the sun sign, there's fluids that are released from the pineal gland and the pituitary, and they travel down the what is like the central canal down our spine, but also through the nervous system, and those processes are then alchemized as they travel down the spine to the sacrum, where it becomes the substances merge together and become a substance, a very ethereal substance that can easily be destroyed by, well, basically by any sort of riotous living, lying, drinking, just being a shit person.
Oh, basically very easily then.
Very easily, because this is a process that's best prepared for and done with awareness and in meditation, and or not meditation, but just you want to be being very mindful of protecting
so tell me what you do then. No, with the knowledge that you've got that this process takes place, what do you do on the, that particular time of the astrological moon for you? What do you do to protect your I want to say, I don't know what word to use. What do you do to protect your sacred fluids?
secretion.
Yes.
Sacred fluids. Well, there are so many of them. That's the other thing. We could go off on that tangent too. We have all these sacred fluids
There's
within
so
us
many
that do
rabbit
things, right?
holes. There's so many
There are
we could
so
go
many rabbit
down.
holes. But
Yeah.
just let me finish the process first. So
Go on.
it's down to the sacrum,
Yes.
where it's alchemized, and then it travels up the 33 vertebrae, right? Up the ladder, up the 33 vertebrae, up through the crucible here, and then into the hypothalamus for 3 days, into a cave for 3 days, and then it's released into the cavity of the brain, and it washes the pineal gland and the pituitary gland and the thalamus, which becomes the light of the world, and basically initiates a whole lot of processes that I don't fully understand, but it's a very optimizing process that can, like I said, help the body rejuvenate and heal and good things like that. So what do? I note when it's the time on my calendar. I take note of that, and then I don't do it every month. I'm not that disciplined, but some months I'll do it. So I don't drink, fast, stay silent, stay by myself, and just trust that it's happening. Trust that my body knows better than me. I just keep out of the way and let the body do its thing. And even if I don't necessarily have a huge experience of light, when it's released, then it's doing what it needs to do. I just get out of the way.
That's what we need to, getting out the way is something we have to do a lot. I've learned that with my mediumship. My mind is constantly in the way of connection. I want to cover, do you know what? Time is running away with us. I feel like we're only just skimming the surface on so many things, but that's what happens with this, on this podcast. There's always so much. Your book, Putting on the Armor of God, which boldly says on the very front of it, the book, which is read the book before it's banned. What is? Well, look, you've even got it. Fantastic. We didn't rehearse that, I promise. I wasn't expecting you to have it within arm's reach. Tell us about the book. What is the book about?
This is such an interesting book to write, and I think that you can, being a medium, you probably can understand the process of receiving. You understand the process of receiving information and sharing it out. Well, I was writing the book that I'm just about to publish now, called New Human of New Earth, and then when all the bullshit started to hit the fan with all the psyop, that big psyop that just I can't say the words because your channel will probably get banned.
Don't worry about that.
But anyway, when that first started, I just knew straight away. it was a psyop. And then what I felt was this other book coming through, and that turned out to be, and I got the title, and it basically is about the psyop that's happening at the time, and just like begging people not to, don't drink the Kool-Aid, don't participate in the experiment. It's extremely dangerous. And then the other part of the book is about all the medicines that we can use to empower ourselves, because we are at war, we are under attack, and we do need to be as powerful as possible so that we can stand strong against these forces that are every day attacking us in some way. The Third World War is well underway. It's fifth generational warfare. It's psychological. It's about perceptions, and so we get, it's information warfare. It's not, it's not physical. It's psychological warfare that's been used against us. So I've included tools and practices and, like I said, medicines that can to help us be as powerful as possible, and then using that, like prayer and visioning to help us individually and collectively get out of this mess. Move into a new earth, move into a new way of being that's not fear-based, that's love-based, and the hierarchical, there won't be hierarchical power. It'll be more egalitarian. So I've included my vision for what world I would like to live in, and it's really powerful. A blueprint, and it's really powerful for us to be using our consciousness is our superpower. So to be using our consciousness to create what we want in the world, and not like create this. I just want to say this, not like create through the law of attraction, which I think has just really been, it's really been misused, because it's only part of the laws that we're all is subject to here. There's natural
I do
law,
think with the law of attraction, it's been over glamorized, and I think it's been. I don't think it. I've studied the law of attraction a lot, and I do believe in it. I do believe in it in terms of energy you put out and what you receive. But I also don't believe that you have to walk 100 times and say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and all these rituals, which are just a load of BS. I've come to realize. I think.
Well, the new age is really the new cage. It's just another form of mind fuckery that's really taken people away from their true spiritual path. Because it's not about getting what you want here for me. And I don't really feel like that. It's not about getting what you want. For me, it's about serving God, serving the common good. And that sometimes means doing things that maybe you don't really want to do, but they're really for the highest and best.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So I think given that time is coming to an end, I think one of my the messages I really most want to share is the importance of spending time in nature and disconnecting from all the electronics, and really remembering what it is to be human and be a good human, be kind, be helpful, be honest, be authentic, and be listening to your intuition. Like what are you hearing to do? And then do that, because it's our intuition that's going to guide us. That's our, that's what we need to be listening to and following, not any external sources, not any
surrendering your
government bullshit.
power to other people.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Bella,
Thank you.
it's been lovely to talk to you. It's been sitting on the edge of my seat for a good hour now, it feels like. But I just want to thank you. I feel that there's, I know that there's so much we could have talked about in this hour, and I feel that even on the form you provided me with, there's still so much we haven't talked about. But I just want to say thank you, because I feel that, it's really beautiful for you to share your experiences, and I think that it's good to see that you're now in a good place. Well, a much better place.
I'm in paradise. I'm
We,
extremely blessed. I am blessed beyond measure. I'm so well taken care for by God, by the universe, by spirit. I'm blessed beyond measure. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my story, because that's part of my healing journey too. And I really appreciate that you've given me a platform to say what I wanted to say. And thank you for the work that you're doing to help people understand that there is a lot more to life, and there are a lot of things that we can do to help us through this time, because it's extremely difficult for people. So many people are suffering, and yet
They
there are
are.
so many things that we can do that are free, that are effective, and that are available, and that are extremely helpful. And that's really what I want to share about, are all the medicines that can help people, because I just way too much suffering. It's very distressing. It's hard to stay, optimistic sometimes. But I have faith. This is another thing I didn't get to talk about. I have faith, like because there's so much more light pouring down on the planet now, and it's the light that's exposing the darkness, and that process is only continuing to grow. So even though it seems like we're in a lot of, and we are, it doesn't seem like we are in a process of chaos and confusion and uncertainty, we are also in a bigger process of evolution and ascension, and freeing ourselves. So I have faith in that we will be free, and we will be sovereign beings, and there will be a time and a place where we can be, experiencing our full potential.
I agree. Bella, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming onto the Soul Sync podcast.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you so much.